Hello, everyone, and welcome today to our Chamber Chat series. Welcome virtually. Glad to have you, and we're excited about our guest today. We have the Chips with us today. So this is the Chip Show brought to you by Justin and Justin. But we are, in fact, glad to have County Commissioner Chip Baker, the chairman of the Hamilton County Commission, and the chairman of the Chattanooga City Council, Chip Henderson. Welcome, gentlemen.
Thank you. Good to be here.
Thank you for being with us virtually today. It's such a beautiful day outside. I know you probably would rather be doing something other than staring at me through a Zoom screen, but nevertheless appreciate your time. I know you've probably viewed all of our Chamber Chat series and know the format, but basically we'd like to have just a free-flowing discussion today about kind of your thoughts and feelings as we are, turning the page on 2020 into 2021, hopefully turning the page on COVID, on the precipice of a new administration, at least from a city perspective, and just kind of your thoughts and feelings for the next year as to maybe some of your goals and priorities and challenges. I feel like we'll probably talk a lot about COVID today, and that is of course natural. But I think what I would like to do is just open up the floor for kind of some opening remarks. The coin flip went alphabetically, and so Commissioner Baker, let's start with you. Just your opening remarks and kind of tell us a little bit about yourself and what you're thinking today.
Yeah, I thought it was kind of an interesting way to start off with. COVID is kind of natural. Remember when it was not natural at all? It's become a way of life. And I think Chip will attest that has become, front and center what we've had to deal with over the past year, and we're right at a year. So that's really what's consumed a lot of our space, and how to keep our economy running in the midst of something that a year ago we knew nothing about, and then over the year we've had to deal with. So it's been an interesting year. I think we've all adapted. My favorite term has become "go figure." In the old days, somebody'd say, "Hey, did you hear about what Justin did?" And you say, "Oh, go figure." Well, we got to go figure it out. We can't we can't do things the way we've always done them. So we've had to be innovative. And I think that's really been a key to what's really our success over the past year.
Thank you. I can't agree more. It's been certainly a period of uncertainty. Councilman Henderson,
yes.
That's a mouthful. Why don't you open your remarks? Tell us what's on your mind today.
Sure. Well, it's a pleasure to be with you. I guess it's been a little over a year now since I actually attended in person a chamber chat. That was when Councilman Oglesby was our chair, and I was vice chair. Attended with him and had a great discussion. I can remember then talking about some of the topics that were foremost on our mind. And number one, I think, was education at that point in time, and the need to improve education, not only from the county school system perspective, but even from the city perspective, workforce development. And that's something that our council has concentrated on and focused on really pretty much for the length of time that I've been on the council, is workforce development. And I think probably now more than ever, we need to concentrate on workforce development, because so many people are now having to pivot because of COVID. They've lost their job, and in many instances, their job perhaps is not even coming back because of COVID. Many in the restaurant industry, in the leisure, visitors, just what you name it, that industry's really struggled. But however, there have been other industries that are thriving and are in desperate need of help. But we have to be able to retrain and retool these our individuals to be able to adapt. And I think that's one thing I have noticed through this COVID year is that situations are fluid. They change sometimes literally hour to hour, day to day. And I think you have to be flexible through this time and understand that you do have to pivot. So from the council standpoint, one of the things that we are really focused on is workforce development and trying to, and in many cases, re-educate our citizens so that they can adjust and adapt and begin picking up and going on with their life.
Thank you, Councilman. You know, COVID, as we talked about before we got on, and you've each mentioned, COVID is top of mind for everyone and has been for the last year. I mean, I think the national emergency was declared just about, 15 days shy of a year ago. How will, for both of you, how will COVID continue to impact your thoughts about governing either the city or the county, how that may change, how COVID's going to impact it, how the COVID fallout and kind of the tail of COVID as we hopefully are emerging is going to change what you do as, as a governing body and as the chairs of each of those governing bodies. And we'll start with Commissioner Baker.
Well, I mean, COVID, since the health department is under the purview of the county, we've been able to take a lead and, work with our partners in the city and in the state to do everything we can to try to keep businesses afloat. As Councilman Henderson mentioned, the workforce has changed tremendously, and a lot of that's been affected are those industries like that are under the purview of the CVB, or I guess Chattanooga Tourism Company, and that includes restaurants and hotels. So what we tried to do is just make sure that as COVID as we've learned more about it, first it was testing and how to do that as efficiently as possible, and frankly it's been a lot of trying this and trying that and then finding the best solution. Then it shifted into vaccinations, and as everyone knows, the biggest issue we've got right now is supply, but that seems to be getting better and better. So we're Johnson & Johnson has been approved. It's not as effective as a vaccine, but it's going to be another tool in the chest to be able to get more and more people vaccinated. So, it's really been a kind of a combination of keep the economy going, and then at the same time conquer this horrible disease. So that's really been our focus, as it relates to that. Obviously, we've had other things going on, like most recently, we took over the prison from the workhouse from CCA, Core Civic, and that transition's ongoing as we speak, and transitioning our jail from downtown out to Silverdale. So that's been a big topic for us as well.
Thank you, Commissioner. Councilman Henderson, same question to you. How will COVID continue to impact, your thoughts on governing the city? How will COVID change what you're doing and kind of the lasting impacts?
I think the biggest lesson that I've learned through this is how to adapt, how to change. And I think, we are creatures of habit, and especially in government, when we find a comfortable groove to get in, we tend to rest there. But this has certainly forced us out of those grooves. And I think one of the things, and we were talking earlier, even in our council meetings, the possibility of having hybrid meetings to where we could be able to Zoom live in a council meeting chamber. And it makes it easier, I think, in many chances for the public to become engaged rather than having to come down to the council chambers to be involved. They can actually do it from their home. And I think one of the things, we will probably become maybe more dependent on technology. We have learned very quickly how to use technology to our advantage. And I think we've been able to mine some little gems here and there that will help us in the long term and become more effective in governing and being accessible to the public. One of the things that I always say, government works best when people are involved. And I think particularly during this time of Zoom meetings, the public has become more involved. We many times have more speakers at the end of our meeting than we typically have. And I think that just enhances what we do as a government. So I think technology will become more crucial. I think there will be things that we'll be able to mine from that and be able to build on and become more efficient in our government as a result of COVID.
Let me just piggyback on that too, because what he said is so correct that, technology has become, so important through this process. And what we've got to figure out is the balance between, people interacting with each other in a safe way and the use of technology. In some cases, I fear that technology will become more of a crutch. So it's finding that balance between, as Councilman Henderson said, it's finding those gems, finding the best ways to use the technology and yet not lose the, personal interaction that really is so key with getting people involved.
Great responses, and you've each touched on kind of adaptability and technology and the touch points. Commissioner Baker, you both know, I believe, that Chattanooga was just named a top city to work from home. I believe, Commissioner Baker, you're at home right now. Justin Graynard is at home right now, and Councilman Henderson, I don't believe you're at home, but I think you're in an empty council room.
Well, I'm actually at home.
Oh, you're at home.
I'm at home as well.
So how do you think that the prevalence of work from home, first of all, do you think it will continue? And how, if at all, do you think it will change the kind of Chattanooga culture, the Chattanooga way, kind of who we are and what we do? I'll take whoever wants to take that first.
Since I'll go first. So let me, I think there's always positive and then there's negatives that you have with this, but here's the positive. I think most people know and understand that we struggle with traffic congestion in Chattanooga. But obviously, one of the positives, one of the takeaways that we can come away with working from home is it does help relieve some of that congestion that we see typically day to day when everybody's working at the office place. Now, I think what Commissioner Baker said is so vitally crucial. We are social human beings, and we're social beings, and that is critical to who we are, and it's really critical to our survival. We don't live on islands, and we need each other. And so I think what Commissioner Baker was talking about earlier about finding that balance of being able to work from home and I think capitalize on some of those positives, like maybe creating or helping mitigate some of the congestion that we do experience in Chattanooga. I think that's a very positive thing that could come out of this, and I believe we can capitalize on that. Downtown, our infrastructure, we only have so many lanes to be able to get cars in on. Now, let me say this, one thing that I think it does impact is those small businesses, the little small restaurants, mom and pop restaurants downtown that depended on that daily influx of people working from downtown or wherever their office may be. So we have to find ways to adapt and adjust to that. But I think there are takeaways that we can come away with during this time. I think that could help us in the long run, at least with some of the problems that we have with congestion in Chattanooga.
Yeah, and I just follow that with I hate to use this word that I'm old school, but I was not a big believer in working from home. I always felt like people would kind of screw around. They wouldn't be productive. It wouldn't work. And I was so wrong about that. And I've been so convinced that it's an effective way to do it, providing you have the technology. When I set up my new company based at home, I had to get the right technology. And I think that's what everyone's had to do that was forced into it. So I, again, as Councilman Henderson said, we'll figure out what the balance is. I mean, I would say this, that Chattanooga and Hamilton County are so much more fortunate than I've got two sons that live in New York City. The business I'm in is worldwide. And so I've talked to other people in different parts of either the US or other parts of the world, and they've got it a lot worse than us. So I think we're more fortunate than most. And certainly having, being the gig city has not hurt us at all. It's been a big boon. And but I've been converted. I fully support working from home. I think it works. We just got to find the balance and continue to make strides in innovation.
Justin, let me follow up with that for just a minute. One of the things that I think, become aware is so important to be able to give people options during this time. I don't feel like everybody has a different comfort level when it comes to engaging and dealing with this COVID situation. Some people are maybe quite reckless in their approach to COVID. Other people are too conservative and scared to leave their house. Here again, it's about balance, but it's also about providing options. So I think as we go forward and employers see and understand the value in providing options, I think maybe that's where our balance may lie, is providing those options for those that feel comfortable enough to come into work, but for those that don't, they still would feel more comfortable at home, be able to work from home. And I think going forward, I think we should be able to achieve that balance and maybe come up with the best of both worlds.
Great.
Good perspective. So let's talk about some non-COVID stuff, but I'm sure COVID will come up. I think a little bit of this will be dependent upon the city mayor's race and kind of how the city and county work together. But for each of you as the leaders of the governing bodies, what ways do you see that the city and county can partner more on infrastructure related projects?
Go ahead, Chip.
Okay. Well, you made a great point about this next administration and the working relationship between the city and the county. What became extremely apparent to me since I've been on the council is that, at least in the city, and I can't speak so much for the county side, but it appears that we work in silos, and we have to come out of those silos and begin to network with our partners around the region, because just like the internet, it's become worldwide. We're no longer living on an island. We touch and we connect to everyone, and I think it's extremely important that the next council, that the next administration be able to work closely with the county commission and the county mayor on infrastructure things. And I'll put this out there. I guess it's been maybe a little over a year ago now that we passed a resolution. I presented a resolution in council that we study consolidating WWTA and Moccasin Bend, our wastewater. And Moccasin Bend is a regional sewer facility, and in my opinion, we should act like we are. We should operate that way. And so I think the next administration, it'll probably be up to the next administration to take a look at that report and then begin to determine, what's the best way to move forward. It's been years since we've had IJA signed with WWTA, but now even we're starting to see those IJA signed, and we're begin to work more as a team instead of adversaries or sitting on the opposite sides of the table. We're now coming together, and I will say this: in probably in the past 2 years, I think in the realm of our YFD centers, I think they can become so effective in supplementing and being an asset to the Hamilton County school system. During the summers, we can act as a bridge for the summer slide. We could put on camps that would focus on what the school system is focused on, but that takes a joint effort. That takes a team effort. Both entities sitting on the same side of the table, saying, "How can we best help you, and what is it that you need?" And I think those are some of the ways that we can work together in the future. Uh, we always want to look at delivering services to our citizens in the most efficient way possible. I mean, that's what we're in the business of doing. Whether it comes to our sewer or whether it comes to education, we're delivering services, and we need to do that in the most efficient way possible. And I think we're in a time right now when it's all hands on deck, especially when it comes to education. We ought to all be at the table trying to figure out what's the best way we can work together. How can we use our YFD centers to facilitate education and learning through the summer months when we see that summer slide, or in the holiday weeks. Those are the types of things that I think that we need to start looking towards and being able to figure out how we can best approach those opportunities.
Yeah, I just think I thank Councilman Henderson he was really a lead in that WWTA discussion. That is a classic example of working together. And, I will say this, that, I know my colleagues on the commission, and I know his colleagues on the council, want to work together and will continue to do so. And it really starts, kind of the tip of the spear are the mayors. And so that's the mayor's race is going to be a really important one, coming up in a few weeks. So, and then yesterday I was actually meeting with one week.
1 week.
Oh, 1 week. Wow.
Yeah. Next week.
Time is flying.
It is.
But and also his example of the YFDs, I was meeting with one of his colleagues about something else yesterday, and that came up. And so, I'm like, sure, let's talk about it. Let's see what we can do. Education is we've got a great superintendent, Dr. Johnson. As Councilman Henderson, mentioned, the summertime, I mean, when they go back to school in the fall, and traditionally, I mean, it's catch up time. So if there's a way to minimize that, that would be a great opportunity. I think those are two very classic examples of how we can and should work together. So thank you, Councilman Henderson.
Nice work by both of you. So economic development, it's so important to our community. It's so important to the chamber. It's something we really pride ourselves in. And I think even despite the pandemic, we've seen Chattanooga have some real successes in economic development. I'm thinking most recently with the CESA axle manufacturing plant. I mean, that's just a continuing to build upon what we've been doing over the last number of years. But in both of your minds, and I'll start with Commissioner Baker, how important do you believe, in light of the pandemic, in light of the changes in how we do things, that economic development remains to our community?
Well, and that's where, you throw in our other, major partner. We've talked about education. Now let's talk about workforce development and job opportunities. And that's where the chamber comes in. So crucial to everything we do. I remember the day when we signed, or VW signed with us, and what a great day it's been, and all the additional businesses that have developed, because that's the core of these opportunities. But I think as the chamber continues to do its job, our job as commission and council is to support that. And even today at our commission meeting, we talked about some housing opportunities for folks that don't, are at a lower economic level. So, be it housing, be it jobs, be it ability to get our tourism company going back to the strength it needs to be. These are all important ways in which we as council and commission need to support other important entities in our community.
Councilman Henderson?
So I think you only have to look at Detroit, Michigan to realize how important economic development is. If we're not moving forward in Chattanooga, we're going to start seeing decline. And if we see it long enough, people begin to leave, our city becomes run down. So I think, as far as top priorities, it is certainly up on high on the list. But I think one thing, at least at this point, that we can do to continue economic development is to create a deep talent pool here in Chattanooga. And I'm starting to hear what's more important to businesses right now than maybe financial incentives to come is the labor pool. And in fact, just this past week, and I'm in construction, someone was telling me that a new Waffle House was going out in the East Brainerd area, and the owner said, "Hey," told the general contractor, "Slow down. I don't have people to fill the positions yet." And if that becomes a problem, then we're going to start to see problems in Chattanooga. We've got to ensure that we have a capable workforce. And I think concentrating on workforce development, on creating a deep talent pool, will attract businesses to Chattanooga. I've heard other business owners say, "Don't crank up the engine, don't get it too red hot. We're having a hard time finding the help." And even in my business and in my company, I know how extremely difficult it is to find the help that I need to do my job. So I think we have to focus on that educational component of being able to, and many times, and we're not talking necessarily about a vocation, although I think that is critical, but sometimes we're just talking about soft job skills, how to interview, how to show up on time, how to come dressed for work, how to resolve workplace friction and things like that. Creating a talent pool here in Chattanooga, I think, is going to be vital to attracting businesses in the future.
So that's a great segue. You've both mentioned workforce development and talent pool and education and the need to have qualified candidates for these jobs we're attempting to attract. So what is one thing that you think we've done very well in the workforce development field? And what is one thing you think we need to build upon and as we're going forward that you think would set us up to take it to the next level on workforce development? And I'll take whoever wants to go first.
I'll go first.
Go ahead.
Yeah, and the other component we haven't talked about is there are a number of people. I know the one development that has 30 new houses going in it. 3 families are from Chattanooga, this area. The other 27 are from different parts of the country.
Mm-hmm.
It's as I mentioned, I have sons that live in New York City, and one signed a lease on his apartment 2 months before COVID hit. Had he waited 2 more months, he would have gotten probably half off. So people are leaving major metropolitan areas and Chattanooga for so many reasons. The people, the size, the outdoors, has become very attractive, and I think that's going to be very helpful, and it's also be something we need to be cautious of, and not from a standpoint of putting up barriers, but just, making sure we have smart growth. And so those are, I think, big opportunities that are in front of us right now. And then, 22% of our academic, or students in academia in high school or K-12 are private, and that leaves 78% in the public sphere. And again, I think that's, we've touched on that, so we don't need to, replow that field, but that's a huge workforce opportunity that we have to pay more and more attention to. And so I think we've got people moving here. We've got people that we've got to do a better job educating with here.
Councilman Henderson?
So I think Chattanooga State has, I think, grasped the importance of having the workforce development, of training these individuals. I think they're doing a great job of being able to create that talent pool that I was talking about. What I think now we have to do is take that out into the industry itself and get industry to start partnering with educational systems. Over the past, I'd say 2 years, I've been partnering with and working with the AGC, the Association of General Contractors, to create some educational opportunities in the trades field. I think it's those types of partnerships that we need to continue to cultivate and create in order to have not only the educational side of it, but they're partnered with the industry side of it that's needing the help. They can kind of help craft the curriculum, but not only can they help craft the curriculum, but they can then perhaps begin giving internships to individuals so that they can, at the same time they're getting their education, be able to earn a living. And I think those are the types of partnerships in the coming years that we need to focus on so that we can create that type of labor pool that we need.
Great perspective. So, in addition to workforce development, what other resources do you think are necessary for both our county and our city to be successful at economic development? I know we all know we have to have the talent to fill these jobs, but if that's number one, what is the number two that you think we need to be successful in economic development?
You want to go first on that, Chip?
Sure. I mean, I think one of the I talked about smart growth and certainly development of at the very least homes and communities is crucial. I was always under the impression that you would put the infrastructure in and the homes would follow. It's actually reversed. The developments go in and then the roads and everything else follows. But so I think, and most of that growth will be in the areas that there's farmland. So in Little Wa or Saudi Daisy, where there's lots of space, so we just have to make sure that we do it right, work closely with our, friends in the development world and make sure that as people move to town, either jobs at VW or wherever, they end up in Chattanooga and Hamilton counties, so that, that's where our property tax base is, which is a huge driver of our economy. So I think that's one crucial area that we need to keep an eye on and support, but do it, of course, the right way.
So I think after our talent pool, I think what the next thing that industry or business is looking for is infrastructure, and that doesn't necessarily equate to just roads. I think they're looking at overall infrastructure, their electrical infrastructure, their water infrastructure, sewer infrastructure. All of those things play such a critical part of a business coming to Chattanooga. Many businesses can't afford to be blinked. They can't afford 1 second of lost power, or it costs them thousands of dollars. So, that's where EPB becomes so crucial in being able to recruit businesses to be able to provide that dependable and affordable power. The same thing with our sewers. Chip mentioned smart growth. Well, if you've got a building moratorium in much of your county because of your sewer issues, then it's time to address the sewer issues. We have to be able to expand. And really, when you get down to it, that's what sewers should be all about, is about growth. And so we have to address those issues. They're not cheap, by the way. We had just yesterday at council, I asked for a presentation on our sewer rates. And, when you go back and look at our sewer consent decree, when we first got it, I think we were expecting about $250 million. And I think it's right now we're a touch over 260. I mean, that money has to come from somewhere. So it it really in essence was sort of deferred maintenance. We chose for many years to ignore it. Well, now it's come back to bite us. So we're left to deal with it. But those are the types of things I think that become next on the priority list is your infrastructure. Can the company get their product out? Can they get what they need in, and then can they get their product out? And I think those are the types of things that we need to focus on as a government as well.
Thank you both. For our last question, respecting each of your time, I've got a little bit of a curveball. The pandemic is
Great.
right. Good one to end on. The pandemic's been hard on everyone, and we know all of the negative impacts of the pandemic, the illnesses, the deaths, the business closures, and the disruption to our society. But as the chair of your bodies, what is one thing that you can look back on over the last year and see as a bright spot or a positive or something that we can build on going forward?
Well, I think what I've looked at is really everyone's willingness to chip in and help. And I look at it as I don't know if any of you had siblings at home, but we might fight amongst ourselves, but you let some outside force come in and we start circling the wagons and protecting each other. And I think that's what we saw is a real willingness on everybody's part to chip in and to help those that had been negatively impacted the most. And in many cases, it was all hands on deck to be able to chip in. And that sort of seems to be the Chattanooga way. One thing I've noticed in it, and it goes back to, when the mayor formed the task force to end veterans homelessness, a Chattanooga mayor can summons an army in a matter of minutes in the Chattanooga area. And I guess it just, it kind of lifts your heart and encourages you a little bit to know that there's that many people here in Chattanooga that are willing to pitch in and help, when things are down. And I think that's one positive, one takeaway that I've had from all of this is everybody's willingness to really to adapt, to chip in, to work together and to try to overcome this.
Yeah, and I would agree. I mean, it's the people. I mean, we're fortunate in the part of the country that we live in that we've got a kind of a mentality. We're the volunteer state. I mean, we're used to chipping in. My wife and I moved here from Dallas, my father-in-law was not happy that I was taking his daughter from Texas, but he said, Tennessee, good place. They helped us in the Alamo. And so it's the attitude, it's the people, it's the go figure, how people have worked together to figure out how we keep our economy going, how we take care of our issues, would be it medical or each other. And that's the most important, that's the X factor, in what's made us survive and thrive really through this past year. So I'm excited about, seeing the light at the end of the tunnel. I'm excited about, what lies ahead, because we've been through a lot, but we've all handled it, I think, very, very well. And we've figured our way through this abyss. And I think we're going to be better for it.
Well, thank you for that. Thanks to each of you for being here today, for your support of the chamber, and for your leadership on each of your governing bodies. We as a community are indebted and very much appreciate it. Thank you to all our listeners and viewers for our Chamber Chat series. Thank you for the chamber for having me. This is the Justin Chip and Chip show. Tune in next time for our next Chamber Chat series, and thank you, everyone.